Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. In our studio today, we have Sebastian Borggrewe. Sebastian is the author of Form Project to Product Mode, the #1 bestseller or #1 Amazon release, in business administration in Germany. I'm dying to find out more about this book. He's also the CPO of Product Masterclass. He has over 13 years of experience leading product teams and product development across various industries, including Unilever and Mercedes-Benz. Our topic for today is actually something that is favorite to my heart, is how do you actually transition from project to product mode in the age of AI? It's actually one of those hottest topics right now. In fact, I've been talking to a lot of product leaders and CPOs who are struggling to do just the same thing. So I'm really happy to have Sebastian on board to talk to us about that. As for me, my name is Mustafa Kapadia. I actually help product organizations use AI to be more effective and efficient. You can learn more about me and my company, EchoPoint, at echo-point.com. Sebastian, welcome to the show. I've been dying to have you on, so this is great.
Thank you so much for having me, Mustafa. It's a pleasure being here, and it's an honor that you invited me in the week of the release of our new book from
That's
Project
right.
Product Mode. Yeah.
It just so worked out. In fact, I haven't even seen the book. I haven't even read the book. I mean, you just showed me the cover. So I'm dying to find out firsthand. There you go. Let's make sure we keep showing that to the audience.
I will keep showing it every now and then. It's like going in, going out, going in.
I love it. For people who are listening in, please drop in and let me know where you guys are from. These things are the best when you guys chime in. So it's open forum. Sebastian and I are going to talk about it because we're product geeks, but we love to have more product geeks join us so that we can actually have a great conversation. So if you're listening in, drop in where you're from and let's get going. Sebastian, I'm going to start with the book, if that's okay with you, right?
Absolutely.
Just how about you tell me more about, just high level, what's it about? I mean, the title said it all, but tell me more about what's it about. And more importantly, I'm curious to see why you decided to write this book.
Let me start with the second question, because we never wanted to write a book, to be honest. So that was never the intention. It just so happened that about 4 years ago, I think, we worked with a client here in Germany, and they were essentially moving from project to product. And we had this, I would say, very, very unique advantage that the culture at this client was amazing. So we could basically look wherever we want. We could ask any question we wanted to, very, very open leadership team. And then we essentially came up with these 7 challenges that are also part of the book. And it so happened then that basically client after client, we kept pulling these out as a reference again and again, and said, well, that's challenge 3, isn't it? That's 2, that's 4. And so we really had this feeling that this was more of a universal thing that we initially thought. And so we actually did a LinkedIn Live like we are doing now 3 years ago, just to figure out if anybody would be interested in knowing about this, right? And that thing exploded, and people basically wrote us afterwards. It's just like, oh, that you basically described how I feel in my company, but that's really strange because you don't know us, right? And then we decided to put that into a series of blog posts, and then that grew and grew and grew and grew, and all of a sudden we're just like, all right, let's write a book about it.
That's perfect.
So, yeah.
That's nothing like a true product manager, in which you stumble upon a problem, you keep pulling on it till your customers or users demand a solution. It's the best.
Yeah, and we also approached it like that, to be honest. I mean, it's like small tests in the beginning. And then we basically iterated it took us way too long to finish the book, to be honest. But we wrote it in public, to be honest. So we had this tool called Help This Book, or Useful Books, from the guy who wrote the MAM test. What's his name again? Patrick Fitzgerald? No. we can put it in the comments later on. And like we essentially got like put it out there and asked people to read it, to test read it, and give us feedback, and then we basically iterated on it until we felt it was done, and now we feel it is done.
That's awesome. You talked about, I'm going to ask you this question, right? So you talked about the 7 challenges or 7 questions, right? How about just high level? What are those? Just so that our audience can hear it, and then let's go deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. So then let me just quickly jump back and answer your first question that you had, because I completely skipped over that.
That's all right. This is why you have me. I have some value.
Yeah, perfect. You're guiding the conversation perfectly. So I mean, the book is high level about making the switch from project to product, but it is very focused on B2B software environments. And the reason being that what we see, at least in Europe, but I also know that this is true partly in the US, in areas that are not, let's say, that don't have the investment that you would typically get in the Valley. That B2B companies start with one customer and one project, and then they basically ask themselves, maybe we can sell this, what we built for the one customer, again and again, right? So, and then you end up stacking projects on top of each other in the hope of developing a true product. And companies do that for various reasons. They do this for cash flow. They do this to become more profitable soon. But this whole idea of stacking projects and one-off on top of each other in order to iterate into a product gets you into trouble in the long run. And that is essentially what the book is about. And what I really hope is when people read it, that it gives them, like, they understand the core challenges that you have. So the 7 challenges you mentioned, and that it gives them a mental model to connect these challenges and to get an idea what's really going on.
No, I think it's absolutely right. I mean, at least here in the US, there's 2 types of companies, right? There's companies who are native product companies who have, like, my former employer, Google, and all the big companies. They're all native born to product, right? They don't know how to do, they've never had I shouldn't say they never had the challenge that you're talking about, but they're product companies that have grown up. And then there's everyone else. And I will tell you, everyone else is struggling with what you're talking about. And by the way, that's a much bigger pool of people than the ones that you have that are product centric, right?
I would agree. And I mean, in Germany, there's also like a wave, I would say, in the last 10 years of true native product companies. But still the majority, I would argue, is kind of in that transition, especially when they are a traditional, I don't want to say brick and mortar company, but it's like engineering companies, all kinds of industries, really. And once they kind of transition into, hey, we want to also get digital products into our value, then that is what typically happens.
Perfect. Yeah, I completely agree. Actually, let's do this. I'm curious about the 7 challenges.
All right.
And then let's go from there. And then I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you a few deeper questions on the challenges. So.
Okay. All right. So let me first of all show you something. I don't know how well you can see it. So this is essentially an overview of the 7 challenges, right? And you can already see it's a bit of a funnel.
Yeah.
And so essentially how we think about these 7 challenges is that there's 3 areas. So there's sales, marketing, so basically top of funnel. There's product or product management, like in the middle of the funnel, and there's basically engineering and also design. So everything was like, in big quotations, executing, because obviously engineers and designers should not only be executing, but, like, let's say executing.
I agree.
And when we go from top to bottom down the funnel, the 7 challenges is, first of all, segmentation. So the big question, like, who are we actually selling to? Because in project companies, that is usually very opportunistic, which makes it really hard to build a product that is targeted towards a certain segment.
I agree.
Yeah. And then the second being pricing. And that is mostly a challenge because in true project companies, when they are only doing projects, pricing is not really an issue, because I don't know, you price time and material and then like a certain margin, that's completely fine. That's a cash flow thing. That's completely fine. But once you attempt to build a product from these projects, companies underestimate something that we call the complexity tax. Let's call it maintenance and everything around it, right? Because once the feature is in the product, it needs to be maintained. There's a lot of other features that are influencing it. It needs to get retested, redone every time, right?
There's a cost to all of these things.
Exactly. There's a certain cost to it, and in these hybrid companies, these one-offs for customers are hardly ever priced in the right way, and we have seen it being very off in terms of people priced it as a certain, like, let's say 50,000 or 100,000, and it ended up being 50 times that.
And it's a huge profitability drag, because there's a lot that, and you're right, it's not a project-based pricing, because you can't use that same input, right? And you almost have to take a long-term view, because you're going to keep adding features and support them. And not just features, but of course, the staff that you need for sales and marketing is very different.
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree. But yeah, that's the main issue, because people don't see it this way, but you end up underfunding engineering. And so if you want to do these one-offs, they need to be priced like ridiculously high in order for you to say yes to that, because then you can subsidize your product business again. But doing it at a time and material basis is usually a very bad idea. Yeah. So these are basically the two that we roughly put into sales and marketing. Really depends on the company who's responsible for that. Sometimes it's also part of product responsible, but let's face it, in these kind of companies, rarely. And that's 1 and 2 for you.
Yeah.
And then maybe let's move to the product management part.
Please.
And the 3 are product discovery, prioritization, and product organization. And these kind of like all hook into each other. So when you look at typical project companies, they don't really need product discovery at all, because they have clients, they tell them what they need built, and then the engineers build it. So there's not, even if you try to get into a mode where you want to do product discovery, that is usually seen as extra time or extra cost. So there's no perceived value there. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the perception. It's just like it slows things down, because we act like, because the customer thinks, or you can also exchange that if you're in a bigger company, the stakeholder thinks, they know exactly, then it's just seen as a waste of time, to be honest. Right. And that is one challenge that you need to solve. And because this is essentially the filter, right? So product discovery is your filter to filter all the stuff out that doesn't provide any value. And then you have basically prioritization as a challenge, because in project companies, what you have like a lot of times are these prioritizations that are based on deadlines. And essentially what you see is you usually have a lot of contracts that you need to fulfill, especially in the B2B sector. And then you have these situations where all of a sudden sales realizes, oh, wow, we actually have to ship this by Friday to that customer, because otherwise there's a penalty. So everything gets reprioritized, although maybe a lot of what you were working on is already done. So prioritization becomes a mess, and there's no real guardrails for the teams to prioritize.
And it turns out that in a lot of companies like this, the customer requests come close to like 90% of the work that you do.
Yes.
So then you're not really doing anything to make the product go further. You're doing these one-off projects. Just to kind of meet the customer need, right?
Yeah. You got that 100% right. Yeah, that's also what we see a lot. And
I agree with you. Discovery is a big problem. Prioritization is a big problem too. I see it all the time.
And at the center of it is really challenge 5, the product organization, because you have companies that kind of start, maybe they have a product management department, maybe they don't, but maybe they even have people that are called product managers or product owners. But the truth is, if they're not doing what a product manager like is supposed to do, but they're rather managing projects, then like there's no real value in naming, like putting a product tag on it. And this is something that you got to realize, that you have to have a talk about what is the responsibility of a product manager really, opposed to a project manager. And is that person responsible for discovering value in our target segment, or is that person responsible for managing 2 or 3 clients and basically bringing their requests in order, which is also, I'm not saying it is also can also be completely fine. It's not product management really. It's just a form of agile project management at best. And and that is something that needs to change.
I think role confusion is a big problem. I think product management theater is a big problem, in which you have project managers masquerading as product managers, right? And their really job is really, they're called product managers, but their focus is on just bringing the ship home. Like, what is it that we need to do to get this stuff done, right? Which is a very classic project thinking.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And this is mostly, I mean, this is also something the PMs can flag, obviously, but it's very hard to change that on an operational level in a company. To be very fair,
I agree.
Yeah. Maybe let's take the last two.
Please. Let's talk the engineering and delivery.
The engineering delivery, push versus pull is the 6th one. And that is more about how work flows into it doesn't matter how you work. I would just say sprint, backlog, but it doesn't matter whether it's Scrum, whether it's Kanban, whether it's Shape Up. It doesn't really matter what it is, but how basically work flows towards engineers. And what you see in product companies, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, is that in good teams, usually the engineers are empowered to just pull validated work, right? And what you see in project-based companies is that basically the work gets pushed into the engineering backlogs, and fairly often, honestly, even if there is product gets skipped and work gets pushed into engineering backlogs because this one thing needs to happen today. And that's just an observation, that this happens a lot in project organizations. And the last being configuration. And I think like at this time you can already see like they're very interconnected. And to be honest, my co-author Thomas and me, we fought a lot during like figuring them out, because it was always this fight about, is this a cause or is this an effect? And I'm being very honest here with 6. This is the one we thought about the most, and it might be that this is not like in the next iteration of the book, it might be named something else, or it will go out, because we always had this fight about, is this a cause or is this an effect? And this is still not like 100% clear. And with configuration, it's essentially, I mean, with configuration, from my point of view, it's very clear. This is a cause. If you can't configure your product well enough to tailor like at least certain things towards certain, let's say, differences within your target segment, and you will have a very hard time shipping a standard. On the other hand,
are you thinking configuration from a point of view about the architecture? Are you thinking about the way you onboard customers? When you say configuration, tell me more about what do you mean by that? Or is it the configurations of the team itself?
That's interesting. So it's the first two you mentioned. So configuration in terms of architecture, is there a plugin system, webhooks, an API in place? This is the one part. But it's also in terms of, can the customer either configure things for themselves? So certain things could also be an interface. But also in B2B, it's very fair to say, all right, we have a dedicated team of consultants, or like a rollout team that basically configures this software towards the customer without bugging the core product team. So that, I think that is the important bit. The configuration is there, so that we sometimes refer to it that that basically the product is able to scale through configuration or through sales. So sales can basically sell it without bothering the product team, and is not scaling through engineering effort. And that is the idea behind it.
I used to call it product flexibility.
Oh, that is good. That's also good.
Is it because, is it flexible enough for a customer or a user to customize it based on their needs?
Yeah.
right? And that requires a lot of thought process, because then you have to really, goes back to what you really said, is segment the different product, to just segment the different customers or the users, figure out how they're using it, come up with that user journey, and then make sure that the product supports that user journey, ideally without actually having a consulting organization.
Yeah,
Because consulting
that's the ideal
organizations are
case. Yeah,
expensive, right?
true,
Expensive
true.
and slow, and guess who has to pay for it? Eventually the customer does. So, or then it goes back to your earlier point about profitability.
Yeah.
So I like, you know what? I like all seven. And thank you for sharing that. I think number seven, I can see why it can be contentious, because you're right. It's a cause or effect. It's probably a little bit of both, right?
It is, and that also makes it very hard for organizations to untangle it. So I think there's two aspects that makes these challenges hard. So one is
Yeah.
they are not in one department. They are not just in the product organization. They're not
Yeah.
just in the sales organization or marketing organization or engineering organization, and they are just like everywhere. But people only look into their own silo. So a typical conversation that we have with product leaders is, all right, so I see the problem. I see the problem
Yeah.
that we are not set up for it as an organization, but I have to clean up my own part first. So
Yeah.
they're basically trying to set up proper product discovery, basically equipping their teams, which is great. So it's good, right? But it's just like it's not going anywhere if the rest of the organization is not
It's not
also
moving.
changing,
Yeah.
it's not moving, right? And I get it. It's easier to change something that you have 100% control over than changing something that you don't,
Yes.
because you need to align. But it's it still needs to be done. And what we see a lot of the times is that when you talk about, and you just brought it up actually, is like when you talk about this scalability part, or the aspect of it, like talking about, okay, what is the goal here, right? So the goal, if you want to go into a direction of product, is you want to scale. You want to
Yeah.
scale without hiring like 100 people in order to scale the product, right? And this is mostly something that all parts of the organizations can agree on, although they
Yeah.
look at it from different angles.
Different
So
perspectives.
sales,
Yeah.
exactly. So sales might look at it from, oh, if I can sell in standard, I can sell more quicker because we can onboard more people. Maybe product sees it in terms of, okay, I don't have to serve like 10 customers like in different ways, but we can actually focus on providing value for a segment that scales, right?
Yes.
Engineering might look at it from a more like from an architecture perspective. If we don't have these one-offs, then we have a longer planning horizon, how we gonna set this up
Yes.
so that it also scales technically. So it might mean different things for different people, but it's the same goal essentially.
Yeah. And I think it manifests, so the problems manifest differently in the different departments. And I think the solution is also different, but it has to be coordinated across all three. Because you're right, other than if the product just tries to improve the product itself, they're going to get a lot of finger pointing from the other departments, because now they're like, well, why changing the way you're working? Right?
Why is this taking so long? Like
Yeah.
this is
Like
the top
it
one.
used
Like, why
to.
is this taking so long?
Yeah, exactly. And that's always the complaint. So let me flip it, to be honest with you. So now that you've talked about the seven challenges, actually, I'm gonna do it differently. How is the best way for an organization to approach solving these challenges?
Mm-hmm. So I think, I mean, this book is specifically written for product leaders, and I think the one thing that you can start with is that you understand the challenges yourself and that you see the connections. And what we did also in the book, we basically created a self-assessment where you can basically
Oh, very
benchmark
nice.
yourself against what we would see in big quotations the ideal world. I know it doesn't exist, but at least to get an idea. And then the second thing is that you need to talk with your peers, right? So what we always recommend, and also what we do when we work with organizations, is that we approach it in a way saying, all right, look, so how can we, like, we want to understand as product management how we can help you be more successful. So
Right.
to not like go and say, oh, sales, you need to sell differently, but how can we be more successful? And what does that even mean? And usually the answer is then like, yeah, we need to scale, we need to sell more, we need to the whole thing needs to be more scalable. And then you can essentially also use the assessment to create awareness. You can also, if you feel comfortable with it, share the book. But at the end of the day, what we usually do and what we also recommend organizations if they want to do it themselves. So in the book, there's always this perspective
Right.
in the last chapter. So how we do it and how we would recommend you doing it.
You do it. Perfect.
But at the end of the day, it's mostly about need to be aware yourself. You need to align with your leadership peers. You need to find common ground in terms of like how do you see the organization? How would you prioritize the 7 challenges for you, and then basically commit on a common prioritization there. And this is, to be honest, it's not super easy to do that, but it can be done. We have seen that it can be done.
Yeah.
It can also be done yourself. That really depends also on the organizational culture and how well you get along with your peers in leadership. But in any case, it might also be worth bringing someone in. It doesn't have to be us. So I'm not going to try to make sales here, but it might make sense to bring like an external
I think sometimes
person
having an
in.
external trusted advisor makes a huge sense, because you do want to see somebody, or you want to have somebody by your side who can see the big picture, right? Sometimes, and especially when I was running a product, you're so focused on what's going on a day to day. You kind of need somebody to kind of step back a little bit, right?
Also, it's political. I mean, like
Very
a lot of
political.
things are political, and this is political, especially because
Well, it's power
the
dynamics.
shift,
I mean, between different leaders. That's really
absolutely. And the shift also entails that product becomes more responsibility, more power, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but that's often the fear, especially when you have an organization that is very sales-led, where
I was
salespeople
just
have
going
a
to say
lot
that
of
when you have a
power.
sales-led organization and you switch to product, the dynamics change, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I liked about this book, and I think we talked about this last time, is you mentioned this concept about an egg organization, right? Tell me more about that.
So it's in the back here.
Oh, there you go. The yolk and
the back. Yeah, exactly. So this is something my co-author Thomas came up with by accident also. Like, he was talking with a product leader, and then he was basically trying to describe that like his part of the organization is already thinking in products. So they have product teams, they had like engineering, UX, and product in the same department. But the rest of the organization was still thinking in projects. So that's how the stakeholders actually acted. So they were basically just throwing projects over the fence or like into the yolk, and then expecting something in return. And the way he drew it on the board was actually like a yellow circle in the middle, and then a white circle around it.
Like an egg.
And then we thought, oh, that actually looks like a sunny side up egg, and that's why we call it the egg organization now.
By the way, sunny side eggs are my favorite type of eggs.
Absolutely, I agree.
I don't know why you would eat any other way. So
yeah,
there you go. This is great. I actually want to. This is almost like a setup. I want to now talk about all the challenges you talked about, the way an organization deals with it, or how you even approach it, right? That all makes sense. But then you add this new thing called AI, right? And so I'm curious to see how you see AI helping or hurting this initiative. Can AI actually help you accelerate? And the reason I mentioned this is because I had a conversation maybe like 2 days ago. I guarantee you, Sebastian, this is that new, in which the CPO came to me and said, Mustafa, can I use AI to kind of leapfrog the whole transition? Right? I have product managers who are basically project managers.
We have a
Hello.
small guest here.
That's all right. We love guests.
Jonas?
So,
Yeah, you love guests. You love guests.
yeah. As long as the
Jonas,
guests have questions to ask about sunny
you have
side up.
questions to ask? Okay. Jonas, magst du bitte? Ich komme gleich, okay? Ich komme gleich, okay? Danke dir.
Yes. I'm sorry. It's probably his bedtime, isn't it?
No, it's not yet. It's not yet. But there's also like this contract we have whenever Daddy is recording a podcast. I'm letting him know in the beginning, and then he's not supposed to go in. But I mean, he's 4.5 years old, so
yes. I mean, come on.
It happens. It
Yes.
happens.
Yes. Trust me, I have 16, 11, and 14.
Oh
and
wow!
Even now, it still happens. Trust me.
Yeah.
Even though I've told them right like 5 minutes before he got on that I'm on a podcast.
Yeah.
So,
it happens. Nothing to worry about.
but yes,
we were talking about AI.
Yes. How does AI fit into this picture? Can it help? Can it hurt? Can it accelerate?
I think it's a bit of both. I think you have a lot of companies that are in project mode that are very focused on the USP they still have.
Yeah.
And I think AI is just going to make it way easier for also smaller teams to attack that in way shorter time frames. So I would say from my point of view, there's definitely more urgency in that transformation, because when I see the kind of things that small companies that are now basically AI first, so they have very small development teams, they are basically coding AI first.
Yes.
They are using AI for everything. I mean, the speed is just insane. I mean, I mean 10x, I'm not sure if 10x is enough. It's probably more. It's probably more. And if you see the speed and what they are able to achieve within a year with a very, very small team and very, very small funding, then I'm very scared for the companies that are not making the shift now, because that USP will just be gone.
It is. I mean, listen, my promise to my clients is very simple. Idea to prototype in 1 week.
Yeah.
Right? And the clients who are doing it are seeing huge, huge benefits. And coming back to your yoke model, because I really like it, is that when they're working at that speed, right, all other parts of the white have to be forced to adapt to that level.
Yeah.
Right? So suddenly, design and engineering is like, whoa, slow down, because we can't absorb everything that you're doing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Sales and marketing is like, whoa, what? You went from a conversation you had with a client and you already have a prototype built in? And I'm like, wait a minute, what does that mean? And so in many ways, I see, from our conversation that we're talking about, I see the AI, the ability to kind of supercharge this transformation that you're talking about, with the caveat that the people know what the heck they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, there's so much potential, especially when you go now like from back to front. I mean, if we're only talking about integrating AI into your engineering workflows, that can tremendously help you in that transition, cleaning up the mess that was there from before. Or even if companies were working with a company currently that are doing actually a rewrite because they also need to switch technologies in during that transition, which is a tough call, but like 100% necessary. And I mean, even there, they can speed up this development on new technology with AI tremendously. And it would just be a waste not using it. And it's also with, I mean, I recently, like last week, I held a talk about like how you can use AI in discovery at a company. And it's just what you say in prototype, from idea to prototype in 1 week. It's just absolutely mind-blowing what you can do with the different prototyping tools now. So I was essentially like prototyping a feature live while I was giving the talk with them. And it's I can't even describe how crazy that still feels to me, because I'm an engineer by trade, and what we had to do in order to get to that level of detail just 10 years ago, it's
amazing.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah. But I think that it can help in all 3 of the product challenge. Well, it can help in all 7 of the challenges.
I would also argue
focus
that,
on product. I think it can help with all three. From the discovery phase, I've actually used AI to help product teams do better prioritization, right? And
Also
so,
interesting.
for example, the latest one that we're doing right now with a client is that they're using digital twins of their internal stakeholders as well as their external customers.
Ooh. Okay. Tell me more about that. That sounds
Right?
super interesting.
And so you can use a digital twin to help you do initial prioritization, right? So for example, you build a digital twin of your company, of your product, your organization, your key stakeholders, your key OKRs or KPIs, your process, you name it. You can build a digital twin of your customer base, right? So a synthetic user of your of all your different users. And by the way, there's an art to how you build this. But then you can take your set of features or epics and you can say that, you know what, Sebastian is the VP of product. What features based on Sebastian's profile and that we know about him would he like and would he not like? Right? So that's one way of doing it. Because you know how stakeholders have a big impact on what you do. But that's just one piece, right? You counteract that with saying, wait a minute, what about our user Emily and Andy and Joey, right? How are they going to look at this? And you can put in the different details about their industry, about their company, where they work, and so on and so forth. And like I said, this is much more powerful when I actually do a demo. So maybe you and I will spend some time doing that. But you can actually have that digital twin do that. And so now you can have that give you a different lens. So you can have your internal stakeholder lens. You can have your customer lens. And the third one that I'm working on right now is I want to have a digital twin of my competitors. And so I can figure out how is my competitors going to react if I build this, right? Now you have a very different set of data. And then you can go through your rice score, your Moscow, whatever you want.
Yeah.
And come up with a set of features, right? So, because the problem I see, at least when I was leading product, is that PMs have their pet features, and somehow the other they always justify why this feature has to be built. Right? I want to change that point of view and say, okay, you have your pet features, nothing wrong with it, but bring in different points of view. Bring in the point of view of your different stakeholders. Stakeholders can be the CPO, the CFO, sales and marketing, could be engineering, you name it. How will they look at it? Bring in the point of view of your customers. Ideally, what we're building on is bringing in the point of view of your competitors. Now you have 4 different points of view. You have a much, much more richer point of information. And then you can kind of prioritize based on that, right?
And that's super interesting because that would also help with challenge 1 with segmentation, because you can explore basically different segments and how
100%.
well that fits to the current state of your product. And this is also what we recommend doing, basically saying, is there certain industries or certain segments that you can also already sell to in standard, but you could also reverse that and say, look, this is the product, this is the capabilities. Is there a segment that would fit better than the ones that we currently have in our customer base?
I agree. And by the way, to bring the caveat, this is initial prioritization that you can use AI to actually help you be basically a thought sparring partner, right? This does not mean that you don't talk to the stakeholder or your customer, right? But what you do is you do this initial game. I almost think of it as playing war games, right? And so you can do that, right? And then the last one you talked about, which is just product organization and the way you organize. I think AI can you name a task that a PM does, and I will show you how AI can actually help you do that better and faster, right? And so to me, I actually think that AI literally is that catalyst or the accelerator that can take all of these things and you can do it much faster.
Yeah.
And then you end up being the yellow ends up pushing on the white to say, you need to change with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would agree that this is like one way of approaching it, right? So basically you being like so fast in your product bubble, in your yellow, that you can basically push into the boundaries of the white. But I think one of the things that in this transition that is really hard to catalyst with AI is basically the human and organizational aspect of it.
Yes.
And that is
handoffs that you're talking about, because there's handoffs all around the yellow. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Those have to be optimized.
Yeah.
Because, and we're seeing that with clients too, is because the product team is moving so fast. The design team's coming back and saying that we can't work at this pace. So we need to figure out how we can. So now the design team is like, I need to up level because this is the new way of working. And I need to have different handoffs between product and design, right? And maybe some of it moves into the yellow and some of it moves into the white, because a lot of the things can be done with AI in the middle. So it's almost like you have an AI as a facilitator. So you can do that too. But yes, I think there's a lot we can do. I know we're running out of time, and I know you have a son to go to bed, and I do have a call right now. Let me ask you. So we have 2 minutes. Sebastian, you and I can talk about this till the cows come home. I can just tell. Like, we can have another hour and we'll still be scratching.
Yeah, for sure. Easy.
What is 2 or 3 takeaways from your book, right? Like, I think your book is awesome. I like the way you've laid out the 7 challenges. It's very practical, right? It's very easy to understand. I want to see what your assessment looks like, because I think that's awesome. I love the egg analogy.
We built the assessment with AI, by the way. So talking about prototyping, so the whole thing is basically built with Lovable, the assessment. So just putting it out there. This is like a brilliant tool that also works for production.
Yes. Well, if you have the link to that assessment, if your Lovable app is live, then we can put that in the notes.
Yeah, for sure.
But anything else you want to share with them, or what's the 1 or 2 things that people should know about, or why they should come and read your book?
I think there's one thing that we do very differently from other product books, because this is actually a book for product leaders that is not really a product book.
Yes.
This is how I would describe it, because it's not only looking at product management, but it's looking at the whole organization. And these challenges that we are describing are also not all part of product. They live in different parts of the organization.
100%.
And it's so what we aim for is to give people a book that pulls them a bit outside their bubble and outside their silos, and to be able to step back a bit and connect what they're seeing as symptoms in their everyday to the root causes. And
I agree.
And
I think
we
the
really
uniqueness of the book is, like you talked about, is that you don't just focus on the product team, because I think that's just one part of the bigger chain.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the fact that you've taken a much, much holistic and a higher point of view. And I think sometimes that's very much missing.
Yeah.
Right? And you do these transformations.
That's also what we really hope for, that we give product leaders, first of all, the big picture view and a mental model around these challenges, and then secondly, language to communicate.
A common language that they can use across their organization. I think that makes a huge difference.
Because language creates clarity, and if there's clarity, then you can also start moving.
Yes. 100%. Well, Sebastian, I know we're almost out of time, but we could have gone forever.
For sure.
Thank you very much for being here. Drop me the links to the Lovable piece. I think I already dropped the links to your book. I can't wait to read it. So I know it just came out, so I'm going to see if I can find it on Amazon, and we can do that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, Mustafa.
No worries. This was fantastic. Thanks for being a great guest. Yes.
Thank you so much.